So, good afternoon. My name is Nyakwai Lam. I am a master's student at San Diego State University, and I am obtaining my master's in social work. So during this time, I will be having a nice dialogue with Mr. John Kuek about understanding community and mental health. So welcome, John Kuek. If you can go ahead and explain, introduce yourself and your title.
Yeah, thank you, Coach, and I really appreciate the opportunity. My name is John Quick. I'm a licensed American family therapist, and I'm also a psychologist without portfolio, meaning I'm not licensed on my doctoral degree in psychology. So as of now, I'm a licensed American family therapist, and I'm a certified clinical trauma professional, meaning people who have specific mental illnesses related to trauma. Those are the one I work with, and I know how to work with those people. That's where this title comes from. That's who I am.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your time today. So if someone who doesn't know what stress is, how will they understand? Can you explain some of the symptoms of
Yeah,
stress?
stress very much is our bodily reaction. Okay,
Okay.
so reacting to a situation, then we notice that in our body. Okay, so how we notice that in our body, uh, we tend to respond, and how we respond is because there is nobody out there to fight to for any situation, you kind of take back, you pull back. So to show you some symptoms that happen to people, sometimes people don't really notice that they are under stress, but other people will be able to point out. Yeah, you know that you're not feeling the same way that you normally feel. You know that, but you don't know whether you have this and that unless somebody sees you that identifies stress and will be able to notice some symptom. One of the symptom, the physiological symptom or physical symptom would be fatigue.
Mm,
You will have this, you feel tired. You don't even want to move to do things. You
mm,
just want to sit down because you feel tired. And then you are irritable. Meaning if somebody just asks you even a simple thing, you respond with like a deep voice and like a loud voice for, for no reason for that loud voice. Now you are responding under stress. Your voice will be kind of, loud. And then we have something called GI distress.
mm,
We have a stomach and a feeling of uncomfortable in our stomach. We're like abdominal cramp and stuff like that.
mm,
So we notice that in our stomach. Sometimes you have like you feel like you have diarrhea, you feel like you have like cramping going on. That is part of physiological. And then we got a headache that have no apparent reason why you have headache. And then muscle tension. And then you also feel like there is a disease going on in you. Then you don't know what kind of disease that is. And as long as the stress continue, it will weaken your system, your immune system that would allow you to even have cold, even pain. So that is a physiological symptom of the stress. And then you go to emotional and cognitive reaction, where that where you see anxiety. People are anxious; they feel anxious. An anxious feeling is when it's like a it's like a mild fear in you that vibrate in you.
mm,
For it's a fear. No, definition of anxiety is fear of imminent danger, right? Even if there is no danger that you see, but you still have that vibration going on in your heart. Yeah, and that is emotional depression, and then difficult concentration, anger, sadness, judgment or judgmental being by judgmental, forgetfulness, and self-destructiveness.
mm,
And self-destructiveness is when people find themselves under this stress, they would try to fight it.
mhm,
How do they fight that? And we call that self-destructive or destructiveness.
mm,
And then you go and try to find a coping mechanism that is not uh, that is not counseling or therapy. You might go and maybe smoke some weed, like go and take a shot of alcohol or something, just so you get rid of this unpleasant feeling in you. So that is those are symptoms of stress, and then you go on behavioral. How do we react to stress behaviorally?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when we see aggression. You see people are angry. We see avoiding people pull back, and you see alcohol use, like I just said, isolation, and risk taking, excessive risk taking in any way, whichever way, drug, and then you see people full of anger, spiritual reaction as well as relational reaction. We see hopelessness, disconnection, self-loathing, guilt and shame, lack of joy, fearfulness, loss of meaning and purpose in life, and greed.
Mm.
So those, you notice those in a very unusual way. We might be having this as human being, by the way. I'm not just saying if you are not under stress, you do not have all these symptoms. No, they're part of us in a very mild way. But when you are under stress, this comes up in a very obvious, a very conspicuous
Mm.
manner, in which people will see, will notice that there's something new going on in your life. Those are the symptoms of stress.
Wow. So that it shows that it affects many areas
Yeah.
of someone's life. So thank you for explaining those symptoms. So these are things that people should be mindful of when they are under stress. And
Yes.
so this seems to cover a wide a range of things. What about if we talk about for the population that we are with, immigrant and refugee population, they brought children to the United States with them, or they are now raising children in American culture, where if they don't know stress, because that's something that they never discussed or wasn't part of their life, back home in their home country, how can they understand stress now, stress within their children? How can parents understand stress
Yeah.
within their children?
So when it comes to refugee or immigrants that find themselves in another country, like us, finding ourselves in the US in particular, our children will be going through the same thing, especially younger children that come to this country not knowing English. And now they are thrown in a school full of kids that speak fluent in English. They came with their language, and now they try to learn a new language.
Mhm,
That is very difficult.
mhm,
So for them to survive in that group is very difficult. The kid will go through immense stress, right?
mhm,
And the children may not really, the parent may not really fully understand what the children are going through. Their parent themselves, when they come to this country, they come with excitement. I came to this country with a family, a wife and kids, and two kids, two small kids. Expectation I had before I came here was different than when I was here.
yeah.
I was told a lot of myths were given, were provided to us before we came to this country. Oh, you go to America, a house, you find a house already prepared for you. You don't know who is paying for that house. Oh, food is a bill. Oh, there's car. People arrive and they drive a car. You don't know. There's no question who provide those. Okay, you don't know is you to provide those to yourself and how. Will you come under this, impression? And when you come here, yes, the place might be prepared for you before you come. Now is your place. But to maintain this place, you might do A, B, C, D, E. You go to work, you do this to maintain that place. That itself will stress the parent.
Yeah.
Okay, maintaining the rent, making sure food is on the table, making sure the children get to school, making sure they learn English themselves,
Mm.
and they learn to get around. So they will have a special kind of stress that we call acculturative stress.
Wow.
Adapting to situation or to living in this country as a very special stress experienced by refugee or immigrant parent. than their children.
Mm,
Okay, so those that is a cultural stress. Children may not really understand this.
mhm,
Even when the children ask, they want to buy this, want to buy that, they will ask their parent, "I want money." The parent will say, "I don't have money." The children will not understand that their parents are going through a lot. They themselves are under severe stress. The
mhm.
children will not understand. Children will pull back. Children, mother or parent don't care. Dad don't care. They don't know that they're just going through issues.
Yeah.
So that will create issues within the family, not knowing what each group is going through.
Mm,
Parents not knowing what children are going through. Children not knowing what parents are going through. A cultural stress in children and in parent, and stress due to stressors going on in children.
mm.
So these affect refugee and
The,
immigrant
the,
parents.
the whole the whole
Yeah,
family dynamic.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
So it affects especially refugee and immigrant severely than people who already been in this country that
yeah.
are, you know, call themselves belong to this country already.
Wow. That's really
Yeah.
a great a great educational piece to that. And so just to go back to what you mentioned about parent-child communication. So seeing how you mentioned, so this acculturative stress affects the whole family dynamic because the parents are new to the country trying to adapt. The children are new to the country trying to adapt. They don't have the knowledge or understanding yet to comprehend what's going on. And so then they can't communicate, right? Usually
Right.
here you see in America that people have family dinners here in America. You know, that's something
Yeah.
I experienced growing up where they say, do you sit as a family and do you guys,
Yeah.
talk about your day? And I say, no, we just eat dinner, and go on and watch TV. But it's the communication aspect. So can you elaborate more on the importance of parent-child communication for parents to understand? So I think that that issue right there stems from a lot of problems within the community, especially for refugee and immigrant populations. The parents aren't understanding raising children in America because they're not American,
Mhm.
and the children are American
Yeah.
and aren't understanding the culture.
Uh-huh.
And so you have this, imbalance
Yeah. Imbalance.
going on. So how can parent-child communication, how can we stress that to the parents of how to communicate to their children and children communicate to their parents?
Yeah. It's very, very important, Coach. I think as a parent myself, who have raised children in this country and is still raising children today, we have a challenge. A challenge we're yet to understand, we're yet to overcome. Okay? As a mental health professional in this country who have learned um, at least some aspect of this country culture and also have, you know, this typical culture of this of the country I came from, fully embedded. I understand and I know that we start off in a very wrong way. When you look at children back home from where I came from, according to the way we look at our world, you teach children in a very young age. You're giving them a foundation.
Mhm.
Learn the language from the get-go. When from learning first word, they learn first word from you. When they grow up, you kind of give them that basic foundation. Okay, and when they go out there, the society will pick up, right? They will learn with other kids there. They will grow up in different family, and then there they will also go on, and your teaching will be reinforced by the society.
Mhm.
As children go older, they will also go and pick up. The learning is reinforced, and then those kids will be just like the parent,
Mhm.
according to how the parent look at the world.
Mhm.
And that is very good. So now when we come to this country, I mentioned the stressors already. The stressors being job, going to find job, it's a stressor itself. Thinking about keeping utilities from being shut down because there's no money, it's a stressor itself. even thinking of buying a car, planning to buy a car or buy a car and then you buy insurance, or you learn how to drive first. All those are stressors. Parent time is taken away by those. You see a young child growing up very much, learning the very basic that this child should get from the parent,
Mhm.
get from TV, television at home. You see children parenting themselves very much. Not, not that the parent neglect them. No, the situation their parents are in is so difficult that they create a time with the kids. And then kids grow up with no foundation at all.
Mhm.
And then if a child has no foundation, so what happens? Even in this country, we have an early child school, like preschool. Preschool in this country is created for a reason. It gives children the basic culture, which is basic knowledge of life in this country. Not culture very much, because America, according to my understanding, has no culture per se. There's no tribal culture here and there that you can find. The only culture that unites all of us is law, right? Law is our culture in America. You come yesterday, you came 20, 30 years ago, you find yourself under the same law.
Yes.
There is no. So what children learn here is something very basic. They respect their neighbors. They respect themselves. They want to be American. They want to achieve American dream. These children learn from the very basic.
Mm.
Unknowing, they know their parents come from another country, but the values will be very much taught to them at that early age. Until later on, until they grow up, the society will reinforce the same law. So what happened? These children, even if they come from refugee children or refugee parents, where those refugee parents didn't have time from early time to give their children the basic knowledge, the basic norm, basic benefit of values, then these children will not really know where their parents come from, values of the parent. Then what happened? You will see children growing up learning, speaking English as their primary language.
Mhm.
Parents having their own dialects as their primary language. So where is the communication here?
Mhm.
If children want to communicate with their parent, maybe their parent don't speak English. Communication now is very severe.
Yeah.
Parents want to reach out to their children, they don't speak good English. Then what happens? Oftentimes, you see parents trying to learn English from their children. In turn, children will see their parent as illiterate. Parents, in most cases, will accept being illiterate, while they are not illiterate if they know how to read and write their own language.
Mm.
I'm not illiterate if I know how to read and write Nuer.
Right. Mhm.
I may not speak English very well or write English very well, but I do speak my language and write it very well. I'm not illiterate, but I don't speak English. The parent will pick that unknowingly that I'm illiterate. Okay, well, I should be learning from my children. Children now will come up, they're superior at this point. They will not even think they're going to learn anything or get anything from their parent. So
Wow.
now you see the two group under the same roof are splitting apart, far apart.
Mhm.
The children will parent themselves very much. They will learn to do things, and they will very much, you know, lean toward their friends outside of the house because parents don't have time. So you see them grow like that. Even when children get in trouble,
Yeah.
they don't communicate that with their parent.
Mhm.
Parents don't really know how to also understand their children here.
Yeah.
They will just try because they did not know no better. They will just try to impose their values on children,
Mhm.
not knowing their values have good and bad that
Mhm.
they need to understand. And the children grow up in another culture that have different values, and let them understand those values and meet somewhere in between, acknowledge those values and acknowledge that some values from this culture don't really work here. So there is no balance here. Nyakoi. I think this is what I have seen
Yes.
as someone from this community, as well as somebody that have learned also how people live their life in this country. So I have seen that as a problem, and I hope in time try to educate parents. Communicate with your children in a very amicable way. Do not insult them. Do not curse them. Do not think they're bad. They're not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. As well as children should understand that their parents are going through a lot in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they have values that they came along with. And
Mm-hmm.
if they did not add any values in this country, they did not learn. They don't know nothing. But this is what they know.
Yeah.
So this is an issue. I think parent-child communication is something that we need to talk about in a continuous basis.
Yeah.
So children are not put down, are not cursed at, are not insulted by their parent, okay? Because they grew up in this country and the society is so big. You know, the surrounding is something they cannot overcome. So the children are overcome by the situation in this country. So they have to adapt,
Yes.
and parents have to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
very powerful. But yes, that's an ongoing, it needs to be an educational
Yeah. Yeah.
piece to it so that parents are understanding. Because you see the both. You
Yeah.
see where the parents are coming from a culture where they think this the younger generation doesn't understand, because it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I, being raised in America,
Yeah.
don't understand the
Yeah.
complications of South Sudan. And
Yeah.
then my parents being from South Sudan can all really understand the complications in America, but they're learning more now that they're here. So I think that's very important. So I'd like to transition back into the topic as we were discussing with all of these the stress and stressors, and there was something in your slides that you talked about with trauma. And so how does stress relate to trauma? Is stress also caused by trauma, or is trauma a part of stress? Can you explain what trauma is?
Yeah, trauma in general is in the category of anxiety. Right?
Okay.
And stress is the first symptom of trauma.
Okay.
Because what is trauma to begin with? Trauma happens when you are exposed to a dangerous situation,
Mm.
you as a person, primarily. So maybe you come under war, like those parents, those people who came from countries full of war or been in war, who were born and raised in civil war. They've seen war taking place, war killing people in front of them, war even attempt to kill them. Some
Mm.
people, got away with wound, with gun wound or gunshot. They escaped. Luckily, they survived.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? Knowing that something dangerous happened to them that killed people in front of them that they escaped from, that image will not leave them.
Mm-hmm.
They will begin experiencing this as a stress. They don't feel good. They don't, they don't feel good. They don't talk to people. Okay. They don't like have this ongoing, mood, like you're reaching out to people and you talk to them.
Yeah.
So you just put a defense mechanism whereby you just don't have anything that gives you interest, no interest in life.
Mm.
That is the first symptom. Then the second symptom would be the isolation.
Okay.
You have this mood that does not go away, you have isolation.
Mm.
And the isolation comes, you are now in tune with what happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
That replay in your mind, in your memory.
Mm.
A war you have seen, gun sound you have heard, people who got shot, people who die. Your mind is just constantly living the past, and it will mess you up big time. It will
Mm.
mess you up big time. You will be isolating. And in worst case scenarios, you will see people in isolation, but as well as trying to maybe find a coping mechanism because they don't want to live like that.
Right.
They will try to find something that will give them interest, that will give them motivation to move on. Oftentimes, if they don't talk to people, if there are no counseling, there are no activities there that could give them joy again, that can, try to help them open their mind again, that yes, there is a future. Even though you've been through, your future still look bright. If they don't have any of that, they will resort to maybe drug and alcohol to numb themselves. And then they will go back, 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 back. until we see mental illnesses, going on. You see people they can't come back, they can't function, they can't really support their family, they can't support themselves. Now they are in a complete destruction of their own life. So that is trauma. And what you have witnessed, what you have seen, that does not go away. It often gives you a nightmare at night when you sleep. It already play.
Mhm.
It gives you flashback memory. Anything that sound like what you heard before that traumatize you, it is to you, and you will respond to it in a very severe way. Anything you seen that look like what traumatized you, you will respond as if it is. So
Mhm.
that keep you uncomfortable in life. Your life will be uncomfortable. That is problem.
Mhm.
And most refugee who came from different countries, even in South America here under narcotic drug war and stuff like any war, then those people are going through trauma.
What now can we do? How can we explain to our communities, our immigrant and refugee communities, what they can do about it?
Well, what we do, what people like myself do, um, is giving them education, some education, at least for those who want to listen to trauma talk, to mental health talk, right? Because even hearing mental health in our community is a word that people don't want to hear because there is something called a stigma attached to it,
Stigma.
a stigma. So hearing trauma, it's being seen as someone under mental illness is a taboo.
Mhm.
Okay, it's shame. People don't want to be seen crazy because they will be isolated.
Mhm.
Because we look at that if you have some mental illness going on, you will never come back from it. Period. You dead. You crazy. Nobody want to come close to you. So what we want to do to tell people, according to what we're seeing, trauma that is being seen in the community, stress that people are going through, depression, we tell people, look, these are very the issues that are normally overcome
Mhm.
by talking to somebody, an expert that understand life. That person will help you, will open your mind so you think big. And you will see opportunities around you that will help you overcome this feeling. It is an ongoing education, encouraging people. If you feel like that, there is a way out of it. It is not like you have some mental illness and now you're done. You're crazy. No, you're not crazy. You might be like not in good mood now, not in a great mind now, but something will help you out.
Mhm.
Go and seek help. Even professional in this country, we use ourselves.
Mhm.
When I was going to school, to graduate school, to pursue this career, I had to go to a personal uh, providers to experience it myself. I was not crazy. I didn't have any mental illness, but I had to go through that anyway to understand life understand life better. That's what we do. That's what we tell people.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's good.
that is help available.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So with that help being there, I noticed within within the immigrant and refugee population, seeking services is often difficult,
Yeah.
very difficult. Um, it's difficult for someone to explain what they're feeling, or even having another language. So sometimes, issues with interpreters, or the stigma that you mentioned, the fear of um, not being able to go and seek that help. I see you mentioned cultural competence. Is cultural competence for providers, or can cultural competence also be for those who are in need of services? Can you explain a little bit about cultural competence?
Yes. Well, let's look about trauma-informed care. What is trauma? I explained that trauma. And and people who traumatize three dominant symptoms. One symptom being they think the situation that happened to them completely ruined their life. they're damaged. They will never be good again. Because maybe they came from a culture whereby if you have some mental illness going on, you're done.
Mm.
They take that. They say, I'm done. And that's it. There's nothing good. And then they look about people whom they could go and help and get help from, like therapists here and there. Oh, their surrounding is very dangerous.
Mm.
They cannot trust anyone around them.
Okay.
Now is a second symptom. The third one, what is the goal of going to somebody? Is to help you out so that you see your bright future and you have hope to accomplish stuff or think in the future. People who got traumatized, severely traumatized, they don't have a future. There is nothing left. So what are men? Nothing. And that's when you see people committing suicide, committing homicide. Okay? Those are three dominant symptoms of trauma. Okay? But now let's go to trauma healing process or therapy or whatever activity that may be. Getting trauma, getting help, getting treatment, it takes someone who understands life in a holistic way. And that's what we call competency. That is called cultural competency. And cultural competency is not necessarily that the client that are seeking services. No, it is the providers. The providers themselves, they got to have that in them in order to help somebody that have this triangulation. The future is no good, I'm damaged, and world around me is very dangerous.
Mm.
How can they help these people unless they're culturally competent?
Mm.
Okay, what does that mean? Does this mean that you got to go and learn your client culture? Not necessarily that you do it. Because you have so many clients. You can't go and learn each client culture. No. For some people, anthropologists, sociologists, sometimes they would go to a country and live with people and and do something called ethnography research, where they learn the language, they learn the culture. Now they become culturally competent because they know that culture. That is different. Now, other provider. So what you need to learn is your own culture, not other people's culture, your own values. That your own view is very narrow, is your view, is not your client views. Your client sees the whole the world the same, not the same way, differently. Knowing that each person that comes to you is very unique. You know they have values, you know they have issues, and you know they are important. Okay? For you to treat them, you got to treat them with respect. Respect, you got to respect from a space. And they come to you face to face. You got to know how do they treat the space between you and the patient. Because some cultures come from where there's no, gap. You got to sit closer. Or you got to sit far away. Or male and female. You got to know that. And for you to know that, you learn from the client that come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you already have that cultural competence in you, you come well equipped.
Mm-hmm.
You know your client bring values.
Okay.
First, you got to learn their values
Mm-hmm.
from them. You assess them, you assess everything, their family, their finances, the relationship, the country of origin, the language they speak. Because they see the world the same differently. They don't see the world the same way. And their culture is the only culture they know. It is unique, and that's how they look at their world. You are the provider, you are well aware that your own way is not the only way. But now you learn from this patient. In order to help this person, you have to take them in as they are, respect them as they are, respect their values. They will know that you are aware and you respect them. They will also come forward and you meet them where they're at. That is cultural competency, being aware of your own opinions to people, your own biases.
Mm-hmm.
Because any human being has a bias.
Mm-hmm.
You come to me, I don't know, by how I look at you, I will form some opinion about you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And if I come with those opinions, I will be biased.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to listen to you, but I will listen to my own voices.
Yes.
Culturally competent provider come with clear mind.
Mm.
Okay? Understanding that this person that come to me today is very unique. There is something unique about them that I'm going to learn here, and they're ready to learn from them.
Mhm.
In the process of learning from them, they will be able to help them. That is cultural competence.
Wow. So that shows that doctors, clinical staff
Yeah.
need to also do their part and be informed
Oh, yeah.
with the population that they serve.
Yep.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they will be missing. They will think they're doing the right thing here by just giving people what they have, not understanding what people have and not capitalizing on what people have.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that when we see people are not getting the help they need because
Mhm.
nobody listens to them.
Yes. So that goes to show that we should support the refugee and immigrant population in speaking up for themselves
Yeah,
and explaining to their doctor
yeah,
or staff, this is how in my country, this is what we do.
yeah,
So more just teaching people
yeah,
about their culture so
yeah,
that they know.
yeah.
That's really good. I
And there
like.
is nothing unique than when a person understands you. It makes you smile. It make me feel good
Yes.
that somebody knows where I come from.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody respect my values.
Mm-hmm.
Why not I connect with you? While you understand me,
Mm-hmm.
now you're the best in my life. I will be able to open up and tell you everything that bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I trust you, knowing that you know where I come from and you respect my values.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Wonderful. So does that correlate into the next topic you were discussing with the Western perspective mental illness treatment? So once someone has the doctor is culturally competent, they understand the culture of the immigrant or refugee. The immigrant or refugee is explaining and teaching their culture. Does that then open up the options for mental health treatment?
it does.
Mm.
Because when I say Western, there is something opposite to it, right? Because people who come from different cultures, like those who came from Africa, those who came from Middle East, from Europe, from South America, they don't really see the world the same way as those who are from this country. They come with different values, with different way of doing things, right? Here, when you meet, let's say you go to a therapist here, you could come to me. If you come to me, you happen to be a patient, you come to me, I will be looking at your issues from the Western perspective, right? Even though I'm not a white person, I'm not an American born therapist, I'm born and raised in South Sudan, but I went to school in this country and learned how people do things in this country and practice like they are. You come to me, I will be able to use my skills that I learned from this country to treat you.
Mm.
I have to respect you. Now, if you know that I respect, I value your culture,
Mm-hmm.
you will be able to feel comfortable talking to me. You
Yes.
feel comfortable talking to me, I will show you how you can overcome your issues by, you know, continue with your therapy, take A, B, C, D, E as practice. Do this, do this. I'll give you do this, do this, do that. If you do this, you will be like this. You see me on weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, and you come. This is what we practice, right? This is a Western perspective. If you do need a higher care, let's say psychiatry, I would say, you know what, in your situation, it would be best if I also, we bring in an adjunct resource whereby you go to a psychiatry here, take some medication for, do you have high anxiety to cool, bring down your anxiety a little bit while we continue. You will be able to listen to understand me when you are on medication. So that I will coordinate that. And that is what I call Western perspective.
Okay.
Therapy, talk therapy, medication.
Wow, wonderful. And
Mhm.
those are options that are available for anyone.
For anyone, whether
Mm.
you come, wherever you come from,
Mm-hmm.
those are available to you. In addition to your own resources.
Mm-hmm.
And it is recommendable, like someone like me who come from another country with values that are very dear to me, that help me along until now, I would recommend that if you happen to be a provider, please try to learn from that client what are the practices in their culture that help them out.
Mhm.
And when you notice that there are very important practices, you tell them, use it as an adjunct care as well, as an adjunct resource.
Wow.
Tell them, oh, really?
Mhm.
You believe that when you take holy water, you feel better? Ah, continue with your religious leader.
Mhm.
Okay, that is very important to you. You take holy water to feel better. You get prayed upon by your priest to feel better. Good, go do it. And you tell me how it go when you come back next time. So
Mm.
the person will say, okay, well, my practice really, really good. You gotta help me. When you come, your client will listen to you better. Will even take the prescription you give them.
Mhm.
Because they know now you value their practices as well. Don't ignore them. This is a mistake that a lot of Western providers make. They don't think those practices really work for those people. They assume
Mm.
that religious practices may not really help people. Other, cultural related practices may not really help you. And they will say, do this, do this, do that,
Mm.
without acknowledging and commending client for using those resources. Yeah.
Wow. That's very interesting. So
Yeah.
even some of the things, the practices they've had before as a culture, they don't within their culture, they don't have to leave that alone because it can help
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the process. Wow,
Yes. Uh-huh.
that's really good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Is there anything else you would like to add to your presentation what you were talking about?
Yes. For those who are listening to me, they may be wondering, what is it I'm talking about when I say ask your client, hear from them, because there may be some element in their culture that will help them.
Mm.
I actually have a few things to share,
Okay.
at least from the culture I came from. Okay. You go to our community as East African. If you happen to be an East African viewer here, there is something very simple in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you go in East Africa, you'll find it. You go to Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Sudan, everywhere in that eastern region of Africa, you will find people doing the same thing. Social gathering,
Mm-hmm.
social circle of men, women, friends, relatives. That is very powerful.
Yeah.
People who got traumatized get healing from the social circles.
Mm.
Oftentimes, you'll find people congregating and playing dominoes
Yes.
or card. They will spend hours, and what you hear is laughter.
Mm-hmm.
Someone got defeated. Oh, people laugh about it. You go outside and you can't wait to come back to
Mm-hmm.
the game.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of fixing your mind to your situation that happened to you, thinking about the loved one, the person who died, or whom you abandoned, issues going on in your life, you will forget almost everything. You'll
Mm.
be so happy. Happiness is what we want people to have. If people can find happiness in their culture, this is what make them, what motivate them to go with people instead of being isolated. Capitalize on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell them you're doing good. You do it. Okay. When I did my research, exactly I found out. I'm not assuming. I did find out that people really get help from those social circle of friends and relatives. Plus other things,
Wow.
plus religious practices.
Mm-hmm. So it's so simple, right? Instead
Yeah.
of it
There is
doesn't have to be medication prescribed and take the
no, no,
medication.
no.
Mm.
People get that simple healing,
Mm-hmm.
powerful, simple, and powerful healing.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered a lot of things
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And so I just really want to thank you for your time and explaining and going through some really a lot of what is affecting populations today within the immigrant and refugee population. So I'm hoping that whoever is watching this and listening can understand just how complex trauma is, how difficult it is to navigate these stressors that don't leave, right? Because you mentioned there's so many stressors and they just
Mhm.
pile on top of each other.
Yeah.
So it's really important that for our population, for those who are coming to this event, to know that it's to seek help, to do the simple things that make you happy, like you said, right? Joy is and happiness is the goal.
Mhm.
And then if you're not feeling that, those are part of the stressors,
Yes.
the anxiety and the worry.
Yep.
Um, so I think we really just want to express, to start communicating, sharing what you're going through, and getting that help that you need, because the resources are there. There's providers that are culturally competent, right? So there's people that are willing to help. So that's just what we would want to express to those who are listening today. So thank you so much, Mr. John Kuek, for this information. And I believe that will conclude our presentation for today.
Thank you very much, Nyakwai, for the opportunity. I hope people who are out there have learned something or will be able to learn something from this presentation. Because the goal is to indicate people, you listen, you get something that you can use in your life, and that's the goal here. So I really appreciate your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.